Welcome back, y'all, to another Tuesday tank review. But first, I would like to give a shout out to a newer channel, Betta Buddies. If you're interested in checking them out, I will have the link in the description box below. So today is going to be a little bit different as we are going to be checking out some of the tanks that y'all have submitted. Now, I did receive quite a few photos and videos of tanks, so if you don't see your tank featured today, or maybe you haven't submitted your tank photos or videos yet, I will be doing more videos featuring your tanks, so don't worry. And if you are interested in submitting your tanks, I do have all that information in the description box below for how to do that. Now, most of the tanks that I have received so far have been really great, and I'm very excited, and I can tell that a lot of y'all really care about your fish and that you really do your research before setting up these tanks. So without further ado, let's check out your tanks. So the first one we've got is a before picture of a 10-gallon tank from Betta Buddies. So it looks like there's just some marmo moss balls, and a couple little single leaf plants. You can tell that there is a heater and you can see the filter in the background. So this one is kind of plain and blah. So I would give the before photo a 2 out of 5. So here we have the after photo, which, wow, what a huge difference. What was a pretty bare bone tank is now a much better, more heavily planted tank. I really like the way this is done, and I think it's gonna grow out really nicely. So I would give this after photo a 4 out of 5. But man, once these plants start really growing in, it's gonna look amazing. And then next up, we have the 3-gallon bowl titled, "My parents got me this 3-gallon bowl and I'm trying to take care of him the best that I can." And I would agree. It looks like you're trying really hard to make do. Unfortunately, I don't really see a heater and I don't really see any kind of filtration. So I'm assuming that you're probably doing a lot of water changes. I would recommend, if it's going to be a while before you can upgrade to a proper tank, maybe trying to create some sort of lid for the tank, something that is still breathable material that you could put on the top so that the Betta doesn't necessarily end up jumping out of the bowl. Like I said, I can see from the photo you are definitely trying. Tanks are not very expensive. I've even seen DIY tanks out of like Rubbermaid containers and things like that are pretty inexpensive. So if there is a way that you can upgrade soon, I definitely recommend doing so. But again, at least it's a 3-gallon bowl, and I can tell that you did put some serious effort into this. So I am gonna give it a 2 out of 5. Next up, we do have a couple of tanks from Alex. First up, we have a 10-gallon tank with a koi Betta named Freddy and his pet snail, Sally. I really like this tank. This is pretty well done. I mean, I would maybe prefer a few more plants in there personally, but overall it looks really well put together and I like it. You can see the heater, you can see the thermometer in there, you can see the lid, and again, it's a 10-gallon tank, which is more than perfect for a Betta. So I am gonna go ahead and give this tank a 4 out of 5. And here we've got their 20-gallon Betta sorority tank. This is definitely a very heavily planted tank, which is always a great idea when it comes to keeping a sorority tank. You really want to give the Bettas plenty of places that they can hide, because even females can sometimes get territorial. So by keeping them in an extremely heavily planted tank, you're really going to be minimizing the stress levels in your fish. Plus, plants are just great in general for helping on keeping the water quality better. So for the sorority tank, I really want to give it a 5 out of 5, but since it doesn't have a lid, that's the only thing it's really lacking, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. This person said, "I hope you like my tank." I do like your tank. It's pretty simplistic. Like, this tank has a very clean look to it. I would consider adding a couple of plants that have maybe a different color, just to give a little bit of contrast and depth to the tank. But overall, I think this is a great looking tank, and I give it a 4 out of 5. And next up, we've got a couple of tanks from Max. So first we've got Max's 18-gallon tank, which I absolutely love this piece of driftwood. I love driftwood in general. I can see you've got a couple of plants in there already, and it's looking pretty good. And you did say that you are actually going to be purchasing more plants in the near future. So I really love the direction this is going. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 for now. But I would bet that after you get a few more plants that you wanted to put in there, this is going to be an absolutely stunning tank. Next, we've got your original tank that was a 3.5-gallon tank. From what I can see, it looks like it was pretty well done and pretty well put together. It is a little bit hard to tell as I can't see the entire tank. And I actually like the contrast with the look of the substrate and the plants in this tank. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Now next up we've got Kurt 2000's 5-gallon tank. In here we've got 2 mystery snails and a veil-tail betta. I can't tell quite if the water is a little bit cloudy or if maybe that's just the glare from the camera, because some of the shots it looks like the water is crystal clear. But I really like the plants. It is unfortunate. I know you did state that you know that you made a mistake with the substrate. I think you could maybe still salvage that and make it kind of look like you have a little path running through. It looks like there's plenty of space, that if you kind of sifted that substrate over a little bit, you could really make a cool looking little pathway, and it would kind of divide up the tank a little bit and give it a little bit more depth. I do really like the plants, and I think, oh my goodness, if you could maybe fix that substrate right there, because there aren't any plants in that substrate, so I think it would be a pretty easy fix. Like, it looks like it could be a pretty easy fix to just sort of sift that over to where it makes a little pathway, and you might have to add some more of the darker substrate. All in all, though, it looks like you're doing a pretty good job. The substrate's a little funky for right now, but I think that can be fixed. But I'm still gonna give it like a 3.5 out of 5. And I would absolutely love to see after photos if you can get the substrate fixed. And next up we have George the red veil-tail and shrimp. I gotta say, I really do like this little tank. I like the pyramids, I like the substrate. I'm loving the floater plants. I really like the way that this tank was done. I really, really like the way this tank was done. And I don't think I would really change anything on this tank. I think if you added anything in, it might just really start to take away, or it might start to actually clutter up this tank. So I'm actually going to give this one a 5 out of 5 because I really, really like this one actually. Then last but not least, we have a 10-gallon tank with 2 young mollies and a betta. I really, really like this one as well. I love the plants. It's very heavily planted. It's got the heater, it's got the lid, it's got all the things, and it's a 10-gallon tank. And on top of that, I love this piece of driftwood. I know I probably say that about a lot of driftwood because I just really like the look of driftwood. I really like what driftwood adds to a tank, and I love the way this is set up. Now, if I were to make any suggestions, I would consider getting live plants to switch out for the fake plants, but maybe live plants aren't necessarily your thing. I do really appreciate live plants. For having some silk and fake plants in here, I think this was actually really, really well done. The only other thing is, I don't know if you have a separate tank for mollies and maybe you're just keeping the smaller ones in with the betta for now. Not all the time, but sometimes mollies do have a problem with thin nipping, and they typically do a little bit better in larger shoals. So you might want to also consider getting more mollies if you don't have a separate molly tank already. But overall, I would give this tank a 4 out of 5. It really looks very, very nice, especially with having used some fake plants in here. So anyway, guys, that's all I really have for y'all today. As always, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!